Hey everybody, this is Brett with Buck2Studios.com, and this is a video review of the ASUS PT201Q touchscreen tablet monitor. Hope you enjoy it. So the first thing a lot of you are probably asking is, the ASUS what? You'd be completely forgiven for not knowing what this is. It is a product I had never heard of, or heard about it completely by accident. But it's got some unique features I'd love to show you guys. First of which is the fact that, as you can see, it's laying flat. Now this is a feature that Wacom has introduced on their new 27-inch big guy. It comes without a stand. You have to buy the stand separately. This actually comes with both, and I'll show you the stand here in a minute. But just to introduce it, one of the cool features is the ability to draw a little more naturally. For those of us who grew up just drawing on our desks at school or drawing in our lap, this is a really comfortable position for drawing. And I have good news. Despite the fact that it's a TFT screen instead of an IPS, the viewing angles are really good. It's not going to be as good as an IPS, but I know some of the issues people have had with the monoprice in particular, where you see real significant color banding. I think with any TFT, there is a point where you can get far enough away where it starts to shift. With this one, I can say, at least in my experience, that even with it laying down flat like this, the color has not been an issue. It's actually been really bright, really accurate. I haven't had a chance to do the color calibrator on it yet, but at least visually, based on the characters that I'm working with every day that have Pantone-specific colors, I've noticed that, boy, they're real close, and if it calibrates, it's probably going to be pretty darn close. There's a lot of customizability in there, too. So, the second thing you'll notice, and I think some of you who've done the budget versions will appreciate this, is the way they've handled their cables. One of the complaints I've seen repeatedly about the Huion, the Yanova, the monoprice, and maybe I pronounced that wrong, it might be Huion, I'm not sure, but is that the cables come out the bottom so that when it's on its base, they pinch. Now, this is one of the great things they did, is that, as you'll see, they come out on the side, and there's that kickstand that I was telling you about, pops up. It's not super robust, but it's not flimsy either. This is a really lightweight monitor. It is LED lit, so that's really nice. So it's not even close to being as heavy as the old Cintiq 20-inch here that I've got with the traditional lamps. And of course, as you can see, the bezel is actually really thin. So as far as I would almost go so far as to say that it's portable. I've taken it to figure drawing class, and you can actually pack it up. Of course, people want to look at it there, but because it's really unique, but it is actually something you could set up on an easel if you wanted to. I set it up portrait style like that. It's a really cool way to work. But one of the things you'll notice here is the layout of the cables is really smart. And they're not using proprietary connections, which is great, with the exception of the pen, which we'll get to. I'm sure you're looking at this pen wondering, is that a wire on there? Yeah, it is. So that's interesting. But you've got the basic VESA screw, so you can put it on one of those Ergotron arms, which is great. It actually screws into its base, so it's really secure. That means that it can't spin like you would with the Cintiq, but that's not a huge deal breaker for me. Now that Photoshop and all those programs can spin the canvas, it's less and less necessary and less practical to spin your hardware. It's better to do it in the software, at least for me. But you've got a standard HDMI, you've got a display port in there, you've got a standard USB cable, which just goes micro to regular USB for the touch interface and everything to carry that information, and a basic DC adapter. So at least on that part, I'm very impressed. They've picked up on some just smart design. The cable's coming out the side rather than the bottom, so they don't get in the way. So let's take a look at some of the performance here. Oh, and before I forget, this is not a huge selling point, but just a couple little bonuses that they put in that you won't find on a lot of the other tablet monitors is it has speakers. I know that's silly, but it's a little bonus. They throw some little speakers in there. Also, it gives you an extra USB port. So when you hook this into, for instance, I'm running it off of a Surface Pro 2, it won't, even though it takes up your USB port, it gives you another one. So that's really cool. A word about the drivers. This is a little bit different on the software side. It doesn't require any drivers, but at the same time that means that you can't take advantage of, for instance, like the Wacom field drivers on a Surface Pro, or the N-Trig. Now it doesn't conflict with those, which is great, but for now you're going to be limited on your software a little bit. So it works great in Photoshop CC, Illustrator CC, works great in ArtRage, and of course Mega Studio, probably everybody's favorite program right now. So on the 2D side, the most mainstream apps are right there. So it's not a huge downside in that regard, especially if you can get it for the $500 price rather than the $1,000 that they're occasionally asking, depending on the retailer. So it works great in those. So the place that isn't supporting it right now is things like Painter. Sketchbook Pro doesn't run on there. Not a huge deal for me, because the only reason I would use the Sketchbook Pro is if I'm working on a small screen anyway. So for the big screen, you're going to be wanting to do professional work with the little more top-tier programs. So Photoshop CC works great. The touch works perfectly, no problems, and it doesn't interfere with your existing field drivers. So you don't have to uninstall. You don't have any driver conflicts. In that regard, I will say it's probably one of the most truly plug-and-play devices you could have for art. If what you're wanting is to be able to work on something like a Surface Pro 2 or one of your tablet PCs, which I know a lot of us are big fans of, and you just want to be able to have that second workstation or second Surface with a few more inches on it, it's actually a really good option. I even tried it on Sculptress, so the pressure sensitivity works well on that. I don't have ZBrush installed on my Surface, so I didn't get a chance to try it. I'm hesitant to say yes or no, but they both come from the same company, so I'm optimistic that perhaps it'll work. Since it worked in Sculptress, maybe it would work in ZBrush. Maybe one of you guys could give that a try. They do say that it works with Mac. I have not had a chance to test it yet, so today's review is going to be completely about my experience with it, for the purpose I bought it for, which is to run it with the Surface Pro 2. So I hope that helps. Let's kind of get in here and look at some of these unique features and see how they work, and if it'll be something that's good for you. Okay, so we have it attached to the base, and I want to show you one little comparison here, just so you can get a feel for the size. Actually, the first thing I want to point out is that it has one of the, just one of the best matte finishes on here that I've seen in a long time. For those of us who've been using the Surface, for instance, probably be able to tell once I hold these side by side. But of course, you can see the glare on the Surface, and I've even got a matte screen protector on the Surface. But lots of glare, and of course I've got several lights on it here. But I can tell you, working on this is it's very refreshing that they've put a true matte surface on here. It's got a little bit of texture. It's not like drawing on glass, which is kind of nice. And honestly, it's probably just plastic. I don't think it's anything super fancy or proprietary. I don't know. They said that there is something proprietary on there, that there's a film of some sort. You don't get the sense that it's something you can peel off. I certainly, if it's a separate piece, it's baked on there or something. So it's a really nice surface to draw on. And you'll notice, like I said, it's really hard to get any glare, which is great when you're trying to tilt it up and down. If you work in an office where you got overhead lights, it can be real tough. But what you see there is, it screws in right there, so it's nice and secure. This is not a stand where you have the levers like you would on a Cintiq, but it's a very stiff system here. So it's sort of like what you'd have on the Surface Pro 3, I guess, but imagine if it was a lot stiffer. So basically, once you set it, like, it's not really going anywhere. Like, it's not going to fall if you press on it or if you're drawing on it. So that's really cool. A couple of the cable management things that are great is that everything snaps in really nice. And we'll get to talk about this pen here in a second. Okay, so hooking it up is actually really easy. Like I said, they've done some really smart things. Really, none of the cables are proprietary with the exception of the pen. But one of the other smart things they've done is that they've done a cable management system on the back, which is cool. So you plug these in, and it actually has a little clip that holds your video and your USB port in place. There's actually also a little screw-in tab that I haven't put on just for this, but that holds the pen cable in place as well. And the power cable actually snaps into its own little holder right there. Keep it from going anywhere. So that's all really convenient. So we're going to spin it around. And the way I've got it hooked up is going from an HDMI to a mini DisplayPort, so I can hook up to the Surface Pro 2. And just a simple adapter you can get on Amazon. I think it's maybe 20 bucks or so. So that just plugs in. There you go. Now we're going to plug the USB in for a touch. There we go. So over here you'll see you've got all these different options. You can switch it just to touch, just pen, or pen and touch. There's some great options here. They're all touch screen. Things like changing the color temperature. There's a lot of adjustability on here. And they're all touch screen, which is nice. So you actually just slide them up and down. So the interface on this is actually really smartly done. It's a lot like working on a smartphone. It's a lot easier than a lot of the touch monitors where you have these menu buttons that are hidden on the back and you're kind of navigating without being able to see. This is all, these are all right here so you can touch them. So that's really cool. Let's pull up a little thing in Manga Studio here. Let's take a look. And you're probably curious about the pen. Fair question. The powered pen idea has been around for a while. So it's not, that part isn't exactly a new idea. The execution is. This is their own technology. There are no replacement pens for this. And to the best of my knowledge, no other company's pens will work on it. That includes things like UC Logic, Unova, and pretty much any of the other ones. So it is their own technology. That doesn't mean it's bad. It's actually pretty darn good once you get it going. But I just want to let you guys know, if you're going to get this, I consider getting a square trade warranty or something, so that if something does go wrong down the road, then you at least have some sort of way to come back. So the hover distance is incredible. I mean, it's about a full inch off the screen. It's probably difficult to see, but it's way up there. And the pressure sensitivity, it's right there. I'm going to show you guys a couple tricks on how to tweak the pen tip so that it feels more natural. Initially, it's got a little bit of a heavy initial activation force, which means to get it to register that first bit of pressure, you have to press a little harder than normal, but there is a way to fix that, and I'll show you towards the end. But like I said, touch works really well, no problem. You can slide it between screens without issue. It's for the purposes that I got it for, it's actually working pretty well. So let's get in here and actually do some art and play around a little bit and see what we think.